6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And we're back again with the Global Empowerment Summit 2021, the young and the wise, we both together. And today we're back with another great panelist right before me. But the topic for today is extremely interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing what the panelists are going to say. The future of business, is it more than just startups? So I'm going to first introduce all my panelists to you. Of course, I have the lovely Priya Mishra from Australia. She's the CEO, co-founder of Caporality Global, book author, public speaker, and your outsourced CXO. How are you, Priya?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Anita.
Thank you for being here. Looking forward. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure it's pretty late in Australia, but thank you so much. And of course, I have another Australian here. I hear he's Malaysian, moved to Australia, and he's from my hometown, Ipoh, KJ Wong, the founder and director of Awake by 5 a.m. How are you, KJ?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. It is 10 o'clock at the moment, but it is great.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And we have Sanjaya Kumarasari from Malaysia, who's a senior growth consultant. Hi, Sanjaya. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good to be here. Thanks, Vanita. Nice to meet you, KJ and Priya.
So today, as I said again, we are talking about the future of business. Is it more than just startups? So I'm going to throw the first question to KJ, right? In the last 2 years since the pandemic, how has your business transformed? I'm sure there's so many different things that have happened to you, but, I want to know what are the things that, have the major things that have transformed about your business?
Well, if you live in Melbourne, Australia, you realize that you have been in lockdown the longest in the world. And so it is pretty serious. We broke the Guinness Book of Record on the longest days of lockdown. It hasn't actually, to be honest. Before the pandemic and all those things that we know as it is, my business has always been online. So my business is about more than 3 years old now. And so prior to that, all my business are generally done online anyway. So Zoom and everything like that has been the main way of me coaching people around the world. So in terms of the training side of things, no. However, I do have businesses held in Melbourne, and those, of course, has been a very weird time for us for the last 2 years. Having said that, even my client has evolved to digital, and so I'm still able to help them using the computer and using Zoom. And so all in all, if anything, my business itself, the sales has actually gone up for the last 2 years. So that's what has been happening for us. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that, and certainly I know that a lot of business were struggling and some potentially shut, especially in Victoria. So I'm extremely grateful for doing very well.
Fantastic. That is so good to hear. Yes, you're right. So many businesses, even my business, I've been doing PR and, events for the longest time. And, the first 6 months last year, I always thought Malaysia, we were the longest in lockdown, but it looks like, Australia kind of took the cake, right? So, yeah, we've got weird, alphabets going on all the time. We don't even know what we are, on our essence, So, yeah. And for the first 6 months last year, I thought, nothing was happening for me. There was no business. There's nothing at all, But yeah, I decided to actually transform my business and pivot it and move towards, with the times as well, and move it more online. But yes, a lot of businesses are not as lucky. How has yours been, Priya, in the last, say, 18 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, my business is very much customer experience based. So yes, we were very much global we initiated the global like nearly 4 years ago. I started acting in, but at first I lost 70% business when first lockdown happened in last year March. But then slowly people started accepting and understanding, and just like your business was very much related to events, mine was too, so it was like a effective. And now my transformation, it allowed me to transform into a very different aspect, so that way I recovered fast. I was lucky, I restructured myself, and I was able to bounce back. But yes, KJ, there are a lot of people didn't make it the other side, you know and I'm so sorry for them, but it is a sad truth.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Now, what about you, Sanj? How has your business transformed in the last year or so?
I think I've got a pretty unique take when I was reading the title and this question that you had for us. If I could just ask a quick question though, Priya, when you say you're in customer experience, can you tell me a bit more about which part of customer experience and how you do your business? So before I answer mine, so I can put some relevance to it.
Yeah, so mine is customer experience is real. These days, majority of people are actually very much thinking about customer satisfaction aspect. We are actually going above and beyond and thinking of more of a customer experience aspect. Because the larger businesses have been already started thinking, and they are started replacing CMO with the CXO aspect. But the small medium businesses, they are not thinking about it. They are all still thinking about surviving business. They are not considering more of a sustainable business model. So we help businesses to offer not customer satisfaction aspect. We are talking about customer experience aspect, so that you can actually build the better advocacy, your evangelist, and your more retainer model, sustainable business model growth. That is gonna be giving you better legacy, rather than thinking about where we want to see ourselves 100 years. Would be better than actually thinking about where I want to see myself in 3 years or 5 years of time. So just shifting the thought, you know
Right.
is
Awesome. Yes. So basically, it's around consultancy and training in order to train people to bring customer delight along those lines.
Mm.
so we are not very much into the training. We are very much execution aspect. So yes, we do train the people who take we are under our wing. We have developed our own framework. Based on the
Mm.
framework, we actually offer that corporality effect, where actually we create the whole foundation in your first year, and then we talk about how you want to see establish yourself more based on the futuristic approach. And then our third layer is creating a culturally conditioned framework. We implemented it in that, and together the methodology we are calling is called intended maturation model, which is very much our own IP. Yeah.
Fantastic. Priya, thank you so much for the explanation. And I appreciate Benita giving me an opportunity to ask this. The reason why I asked this is because I'm also in the industry of customer experience, but maybe slightly different. So what I do, I'm in digital customer experience platforms whereby I help organizations to enhance the experience of their customers through digital platforms, right? So nowadays, everyone is going online. It might be a little bit blended from online, offline. So how can we utilize technology in order to enhance the experience where we can't actually meet our customers face to face? So that's why I wanted to understand what you do, so I can put some context there. So why is experience important? Exactly like what Priya said, experience drives value, and you're in business because people are there to get a value from what you have to offer. So that's one aspect of experience in my perception. And the other thing as well is really important, why businesses should really consider experience for me, is relationships, right? Whether it is online business or traditional, relationships are what drives businesses, right? KG, I'm sure you also experience that as well in the work that you do. It's the personal touch that you give to your customer. So, nowadays we're going all around the world. We have access and connection to people through mediums of WhatsApp, Instagram, Slack, all these, and this Google Meets or StreamYard. There are so many ways to connect. But the question is, are we building relationships? Just because we connect doesn't necessarily mean we're building relationships. So the way I see it, relationships is not just about your customers. Relationship is also your entire ecosystem of employees, your partners, your suppliers, and that also shifts and navigates how your business runs and survives and transforms in times like this, right? So in the organization that I was in prior to where I am currently now, essentially that business could have been run online, from creating awareness through digital marketing to being able to engage with prospects and show interest through email and inquiry forms. The salespeople could do presentations through video conferencing like this. Even the implementation and after sales support could have been done completely online. But I was quite lucky, and one of the reasons why I did join this company was because they really still focused on relationships. So even though our business could run online, we had a prerogative to go and meet our customers, our clients. We went and did our presentations face to face, because there's a lot of things you learn about your customers when you go and meet them. Little cues like how they're responding, which particular thing that you said that they like, what's their personality, what's the emotion. Those are things that are quite, I would say, when you ask the question, how is my business transformed? I believe that that's where it's changed quite a bit, because now we've got to build those relationships online. And now we know online, you've got multiple screens open, someone's checking their email, some they don't even put their video on. So how do you actually break that barrier and build a relationship? Because it is really difficult. So me, the way my businesses, my industry has transformed is in that aspect of relationship and how to build those relationships online. I mean, I'll give you a little bit of a story where for example, I joined this organization just at the beginning of 2020. So I had a short window where we went to the office and I started working with a team of people who were incredible. And they were always at the priority of the list was to help. At any time, they're like, help. If you need help, reach out to me. So I got a taste of where I could just lean over and ask them a question. I'd get back to my work, get on with what I had to learn, and they could get back to work. But then when we had to go into work from home, the same people were really helpful. Their workload doubled, as we all know. Like, there was a lot more things we had to do. Don't know if we were busy, but I had to see when he's free, schedule a meeting. He may have to cancel a meeting, and it just became a lot more barriers in order to not only build a relationship, get things done. So this happens whereby even in our customers, I had some experience when I was presenting to our customers where they were saying some of the people in their team that had joined 3 months later was only meeting the colleagues for the first time because they were on a presentation with us. So imagine how different that is, that you're only meeting your team, people you actually work with, not separate departments, when you're joining a call to meet a client or an external party. So for me, that is the biggest way that our business has transformed. But if you ask me in terms of the business, what we do, I mean, our business is run on experience based on the data that we collect, right? At the core is data, understanding. Just like the relationships you build offline, it's data, understanding your customers. So the key two things would be automation and artificial intelligence. They both are at the core of data. So the more information you have, the engineers, the scientists behind building these platforms have more data points to understand what customers are looking for, what their needs are, so they can build better platforms. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, the other component, the buzzword people talk about, how it's employed in our business, in our industry, is automation is using a tool in order to start making predictions, almost like a baby, learning from the experiences around to automate that process, right? So the more data, again, more data points means they can do better. Sorry for that long answer, but that's
No worries.
Interesting. No, but this is what I got from talking to the three of you, is like the whole way of doing, the landscape of how we do business has changed so much, right? It's not just the fact that we are all online or mostly online, but it's also the fact that how our relationships with the different people that we meet, whether it's customers, whether it's the people that we work around with, the ecosystem, like you said, has changed so much, and one of the things I feel that also has changed so much, tremendously, especially in my industry, is the way we are even feeling and doing and putting things out there that are that should be put out there, like little things like kindness and empathy. Like you said, everyone wants to support each other and help each other and move forward, right? Because that's the only way we can do this. Right now, a lot of us don't have that human touch or the human experience, in real time or in real life. So what other way can we do better? I mean, KJ, I'm going to go back to you and ask you, like, the simple things you think, like, for example, a startup, coming out into, doing business right this moment. What are the things you would, advise them?
When you're starting a business, you need to learn how to sell. I'm
Yeah.
biased.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, selling, like, I think there's a lot of misinterpretation of what selling is. Selling is actually helping the customers with the solution for their challenges. And so, like, I think anyone who say, "Oh, I don't want to sell," you know what? Don't say that. Everyone's selling. The question is always going to be how you're going to do it. So anyone who actually start a business really needs to consider their sales skill, and sales skill is also understanding the customers and go mingle with people, whether it's online and offline. I mean, recently we are in Melbourne. We just finished our lockdown, right? So there are going to come a time where there's going to be meetups that people you can actually meet outside face to face. So there's going to be a lot of those activities. Now, if you're actually starting your business right now, or or a few months back, at the end of the day, it is the same. It's actually trying to understand your client, your customers, your prospect, your target market, or your persona, whatever you call it. At the end of the day, having that conversation with them so that you try to, I guess, understand their challenges and stop pitching so early. Like, seriously, like, no one cares about your business, really, at the end of the day. If you're not listening to your client, they're not listening to you either. So, I post a lot on LinkedIn about all these things. So if you actually if you are connected to me, you see the difference between someone who is forcing and being aggressive and pitch and for nothing, to someone who is listening to understand the client and work with them a lot more. So that skill is the first thing I would learn if you're going to start your business and engage with other people.
I think gone are the days of hard selling, isn't it? And putting it out there, and just kind of shoving it down people's throats, right? It's a lot more subtlety, And then again, I think the one thing that's remained post, pre, whatever pandemic, one thing is going to remain is building the relationship, right? Priya, how would you look at it? What would you advise, someone just starting out in business, or just about, getting into starting maybe a new company?
Yeah, so the thing is, the future is holding a very different aspect to the way we were seeing the business so far, right? And
Mm.
and ultimately, no matter what you do, I mean, I never understood the concept why people call it B2B or B2C. I always say it is a human to human. Like, ultimately, the other side of the business, another human sitting and operating, or a team of human is sitting and operating. How you're gonna actually engage with them on a much, of course IQ is important, but how on the EQ level, and all, how you're going to actually involve with the other aspects of actually understanding them, just like earlier discussed, that how it is important for people to experience the togetherness, the understanding of the ground level. The consumer is very much mature right now. In past, consumer was very much guided by the main media stream. Now consumers has so much this big ocean, internet, where people, I mean, even before you reach to the doctor, you start searching. I mean, I was listening, somebody was joking about it, like, the guy went to the doctor and said, "Oh, my wife needs operation, do this," and the doctor said, "Let me do my job." But then, these days people are even going that people level and making their own decision at that level. But the thing is that there are a lot of joke about it, but I'm just saying, actually, yes, because consumers are much more educated. So for you have to keep that consideration, that how you're gonna establish that relationship, and this is gonna be a norm now, right? I mean, when I started my career in 1995, 96, and since like 10, 12 years I have been doing this whole conferencing. And when I was in India in 2010, I transferred here. Before that, was like nearly 5, 6 years I was helping supporting across the world from the larger organization. so this technology was always there, the facility was there. It's not new, we are like going on this live stream. It was always there, but it was very much limited to those organizations who were ready to think 10 years down the line, right? And I always think that where you are today, you can't just say, like recently in digital media aspect, some people started saying, oh, you should be voice search friendly. I mean, I'm saying 12 years ago if Siri was here, right? Only when you think more futuristic aspect, and if you can think how you can actually keep yourself ready for that kind of a human interaction from today, that's where you will be start actually disrupting your market, you know.
Yep. I think that's, I mean, I think number one, the most important thing here is also, keep up with the trends as well. Understand the trends. Some trends may work for you, others may not, depending on the type of business you're doing. Yeah. So I think just basically understanding the trends, and as you said, if you can disrupt it, great. Find that little, USP that you have, and flourish in that. Sanch, I'm going to throw a question to you by KK Chi. There are still lots of pressures selling online using time pressure and the FOMO concept, which is like the fear of missing out concept, where they're offering apparent huge discounts with a timeline. You reckon there's a lot of pressure? There's a lot of FOMO concept going on?
So I was on mute. Yes. Okay. I completely agree with what KJ was saying, what you were saying in terms of relationships are also important. It's not more hard selling. I mean, the reality is there are different ways to sell. There are certain products and services that do not require to build a service. I'm not going to build a relationship with a person who sells me my handphone case. I'm not going to build a relationship with a person that I buy sweets with, right? But in the larger picture of things, yes, relationship does matter. But for me personally, at least when I look at consultancy or helping customers and trying to solve their problems, I always look at not what you're doing, but how you're doing it. So there are some times that you might appear what those strategies and tactics look like FOMO and giving huge discounts, which are necessary to get people interested. But it's how you're delivering that message that's going to resonate to that person that's important. Right? If you're just going to say buy now, it's unlimited, and just blast it to everybody, it might not resonate with everybody. But if you're able to personalize, build that relationship with that individual, understand what fits them and what they are interested to hear, see, then I think that same message can be applied in many different ways in order to bring a better result and make even the customer feel okay that they're not, being taken for a ride.
Hi, Alaya. Hi. Thanks, Sanch. I'm just going to say hi to Alaya. He's just joined us from Nigeria.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for joining
good everyone. You're most welcome. Thank you.
So, Alaya, today we were just talking about the fact that, how are we all moving towards the future, generally the future of business, and I'm going to throw this question to you, Alaya. Basically, maybe you could take this question. Consumers may be educated, but many business owners may not. They are restrictive to change because change brings uncertainty and costs money. We were talking, Alaya, about the fact that, how most of us have transformed our business in the last, 18 to 24 months, because, due to the pandemic. And what we have done, and we have been talking about the fact that, creating relationships has always remained the central of everything that we do. So, what do you think in terms of, how do you think, in whatever you are doing, has that habit changed, or have you transformed your business? Are you doing anything differently?
All right. Okay. So now that's actually like a very good question, because in other words, one thing is certain: businesses that are adaptive to change actually have the possibility of surviving irrespective of the current trend they find themselves in. In other words, the greater the turbulence, and better still, the strategy of adoption, the flexibility of the business model, and thirdly, the ability for them to foresee change ahead and look at for possible ways in which to meet the future demand. These are critical things that will actually determine the overall outcome of a business, whether it goes into extinction or it becomes relevant for the next demand or next future demand. Now, in my own field, one of the key things I do is I have more like you could say this ability to foresee the future, and I do that through the adoption of innovation. Okay, innovate having innovative lenses gives you the ability to predict what direction business is going. So when I'm dealing with most of my clients, I tell them, okay, you have wonderful business. A lot of persons have wonderful business, but beyond just the present moment that looks so comfortable, um, what possible thing can, or what possible path can such business take if all things go south? Right. So when I discuss with them, most time they're like, I don't know what to do, or they're thinking of other possible things to do. And then I adopt what is called scenario planning. Okay. So what's case scenario, and what's the best case scenario? And I believe that if businesses actually adopt such approach, they'll have more like a higher advantage over the crisis of the future. Like during the pandemic, some businesses were closed, some businesses were indoors, sales were down, but still yet, for some other businesses, they were thriving so well. They were doing so well. It looked as though the crisis actually opened new opportunities for them compared to their previous year's outcome. So having the ability to predict the future is one thing that I believe in businesses, whether you're a startup, whether you're SME, whether you're Fortune 500, whether you're Fortune 300 or 100, your ability for you to predict the future, and not only to predict, but to anticipate change, is what will give you a higher advantage over crisis. And businesses that go into this path, into this direction, they will not go extinct. Rather, they'll become relevant even in disturbing times.
Yep. Yep. Thank you, Elijah. So basically what you're saying is that, you need to have that foresight to be able to see what your business can do, or how you transform your business, not just right now, but what's going to happen in the next maybe 3 years, 5 years from now, right? But I think on top of all that as well, we live in such a digital world right now with all the transformation and acceleration that's happening. Things are changing so quickly, isn't it? Every 6 months we have something new. Facebook just said it's going to get into the metaverse. I mean, what is that? We'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, it's crazy. I put up something today and I said, are they really going to do this responsibly? And everyone's like, you reckon? It's Facebook, and now they're going to take over everything. They've already taken over everything. Now they're just going to, hold you hostage, right? So yes, of course, but consumers, like I said, on one end we have the consumers. So someone's asking, consumers may be educated, but are business owners, brave enough or have the guts enough to be able to make that change, go with the change, or ride with the change. And there's so many companies I know right now. I'm not really talking about startups. I'm talking about, companies that have been thriving pre-pandemic, right? And, they were happy to do things that were non-digital, this the old school way, and a lot of times, I was surprised, when I was doing the industrial transformation of Asia Pacific exhibition. One of the things that came up is Malaysia. A lot of businesses outskirts is still 2.0. Can you beat that? 2.0 in 2019. So yeah, and not moving forward, into the 4.0. Like other countries around in Southeast Asia were already in 4.0. Some, gearing up to 5.0. But I think what's happened since last year is, the companies that were just resisting these changes had no choice but to jump on the bandwagon and just do it, right? Otherwise, you're going to be left behind, right? There is no choice. You're not going to thrive. You're not going to go with the times. Now, here's the other question, right? I'm going to throw this to Priya. Priya, do you reckon that the startups that we see that are popping up so much right now, and they are thriving because of the fact that they have taken on, they've embraced the whole digital revolution, or is it much more than that?
People are thriving because they have actually thought proactively, or or forcefully, whatever reason it was, they were ready to think different, right? They were ready to adopt as fast as possible. People, if you really want to mature your business for sustainable stage, you have to be actually ready to adopt as fast as possible. A crisis like this is not it's not a new thing. It's just that it is much more noisy because of the whole global village concept, right? Where we are today, we are much more aware. The crisis was always there. There were a lot of crises came, but it was actually came and gone in a very isolation, or of certain places and certain villages wiped out, or certain country was affected. But now this time we actually travel here and there as if like it's a next door, right? Was talking to my mother-in-law, and she said, "Oh, I used to come to Delhi in 13 to 14 hours, and you can travel from Australia to India in 13 hours, right?" So it's like time is being changed, right? So there's so many things you have to consider why you will be surviving. And people who can, and in my last talk I talk, people don't buy your service, people buy your values, right? If you can bring your value and it is strong enough, yes, we all are unique. I mean, when people talk what is your unique selling proposition, I, Priyambada Mishra, is a unique selling proposition myself, right? I, as an individual, I have my own unique aspect of seeing everything individually in a different ways, right? Same marketing, me and Sanjay and KG, all of us is talking about digitalization. You are talking about digitalization, but seeing the same digitalization and offering the value to our own customer is completely different because of our own individuality, right? So once you start thinking like that, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of a blue ocean strategy. You think about above and beyond the competition, right? the you know and if you are not ready to innovate with time, you will be like next Kodak, or you will be, I mean, look at Kodak's history. They first to come into the brand new unique idea, but they did not innovate and sustain with that, right? There are a lot of company names which become household, but they are wiped out, just like celebrities comes and goes, right? But there are company like Coca-Cola, they are still there 100 years down the line, right? So there, it's how you're shifting your thoughts and how you are adopting before the time and beyond the time, if you can think of. That's where you will be creating and building the legacy business model. And people, you are there or not, you will be remembered and you will be actually embraced with, timelessly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Priya. So it's a legacy business model, like you said, and they're having that sustainable, point view, into doing whatever that you're doing and taking it forth, and as Alaya said, having that foresight, almost as if like you're having, that little psychic moment of, what, knowing your business, how your business is going to be based on everything, of course, you're reading, because everything is there online right now, isn't it? Understanding how different things are working right now, like you said, like what your mother-in-law said about, the travel time as well, how much things have changed, before we need to, we had to get, information via so many different sources. Right now, it's all just there. One finger, one click. I always say it's that finger, that masterful finger you got to use, and just get all your information, right? Sanj, what's your take on that? For companies to thrive as a startup, to thrive and move forward.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Vanita. So I think for me, what I'd like to do is actually separate startup, in my understanding, separate startup from technology. I personally believe startup does not intrinsically mean they're a technology company. A startup can be born. I mean, basically, a startup is an organization that starts because there is a problem in the world that needs to be solved. And oftentimes they start without even having the solution. They have an idea, they want to solve this problem. So they even start without even having an end in mind, right? And technology is just a vehicle or a tool in order to provide, to drive efficiency and convenience, right? To make things a lot more efficient and convenient. So for me, the first thing would be to, look at stuff, because there are startups out there there are startups out there that are not technology. And also they are the reason why they're called startups in my perception is because the problem is so huge, they do need to innovate and scale. So the reason why startups are uniquely different or built is because of their DNA is all the things that we've been talking about, that we've been saying recently, right? So the three main things that I see different, why by nature startups are different compared to legacy businesses that thrive, is not because of the use of technology. It's fundamentally how they run their organization. Number one would be, are you solving real problems? People are only going to pay attention to you if you're solving their problems. So number one, remember, are you solving their problems? Then only do you think about technology to drive efficiency and convenience to solve those problems. Right? The second point I would say is personalization. We just talked about relationships. I think each of us mentioned relationship, and I'm a strong believer in relationships. So personalization, again, you're going to use technology. First, remember how you go. What's the relationship that you're building with your customers, with your partner, your whole ecosystem? Get that down first. And I think that's why startups, because they're new, they're fledgling, that's why they focus on that first before technology comes into play. Because I worked in technology company, my career's been in technology company. We sell technology, but we've not really, I'll be open to admit, internally, we never apply the technology best for ourselves. We forget, just use this tool, but we never think about the people and who is in place. So personalization is really important. All right. And we're also in an economy where so much choice is there. There's so much coming at us. So what's going to stick out to me, and I'm sure to you as well, is that particular business or brand that actually speaks to you. Listen to what you have to say, or able to capture, you particularly looked at this particular thing and then drives a message based on that, rather than just spamming you with all those push notifications that you get from your online marketplaces, right? So personalization. Then the other thing, which is I think another way of looking at what Elijah said was foresight, right? For me, I think being able to predict the future is a highly skilled and genius level thing to be able to do. But on the flip side, what you can do is make sure that you are set up, your people that you hire, the processes that you have in place are flexible and agile. So startups, again, because they start with this, I don't know what to even solve, I don't know how to do things, it comes from a place unknown. They are by nature, by culture, set up to be flexible and agile because they don't even have the solution. They don't even know the market. They don't know what's going to happen in trends. And so by nature, they're very flexible and agile. So they can not only pick up on the trends, they can let go of trends, pick up the next one as things evolve and change. So by nature, that's why I think startups are fundamentally able to thrive compared to all business, because by culture, they're already set up that way.
Thank you, Sanj. Thank you very, very much. I mean, it's great that you kind of put the perspective into the fact that not all startups are technologically driven, right? But a lot of people had that misconception. So thank you for putting that out there and clarifying that.
Just to give one example. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to just give one example because people might not be able to make know a company that is not technology and is a startup. Co-working spaces. They're not a technology-based company, but they are a startup that have scaled, and it's now how we do work. So that's just one example for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sanj. Alaya, in your course of work and everything, we were just talking about the fact that companies, whether it is pre-pandemic or post-pandemic companies that have not embraced the digital acceleration or transformation, what's going to happen? Are they going to survive this? Are you not? What do you see? What's going to happen? I'd like your take on that.
Okay, all right. So basically, let me begin first with the statement made by, I think it was Warren Buffett. I think either Warren Buffett or Bill Gates said, any business that is not online would go offline. Now, in other words, going offline simply means you go non-existent, okay? And going non-existent actually means that to a great extent, your end users would patronize other individuals or companies who have adopted the use of the data age or data tools. In other words, it's going to be like this current century is going to be more of a tussle against faster process, against faster product, against higher profitability margins. Of course, higher profitability margin also results to growth. Okay, so it's also going to be against early adoption of technology. Now, I love innovation so much, and most times, I mean, if you use the innovation margin, there are always early adopters and also late adopters, or call them laggards. All right. And one thing you observe is early adopters actually have more of a higher opportunities available to them to leverage for whatever purpose is actually driving us, compared to late adopters or laggards who are actually entering into the market space at a later time. Because the reason why I think they're entering at a later time is because they want to see how the present moment turns out to be for the early adopters. All right. So they want to see how much data they're able to get from whatever outcome the early adopters um, get. But that is like a traditional approach, because you actually miss a bigger part of the pie. Okay, so businesses that are not adopting the new digital age, they'll fade off, they'll phase off and fade off. And that also means, like what Miss Pryor rightly said, okay, Kodak, for example, Motorola, BlackBerry, and the rest, they are all out of the market. What happened? They were so used to tradition that they deny the power of innovation. So whenever in the business, whether you're starting up or you are already established, when you're so used to the culture of tradition and you deny the power of innovation, you fade off. Okay, and that would tell, of course, all throughout. And lastly, I mean, to a great extent, you sell off. But what can businesses now, in respect of your structure, what can they do? Right. So I've already established the point that if you don't adopt it, you phase up. If you don't adopt it, you lose. If you don't adopt it, you actually end up, business that don't adopt the early data movement, they'll end up at the bottom level. Okay. So you don't want to get into the red zones. You want to maintain your dominance within the blue zone to an extent, depending on your business model strategy. So there's so much on the disadvantage for any business that is yet to adopt the digital age than there is more advantage to those who have adopted it already. And finally, any business can adopt change. Any business can foresee change. Any business can adopt change. It's just based on, I believe, the leadership structure or the organizational structure. Because most times, I observe that businesses that are already established, they have tough time adapting to change. And the reason why that is so is because, the higher the hierarchy, the higher the permission tussle that exists when taking decision or making decisions. So that's why startups who are springing forward, they have higher advantage because they are flexible enough. So it doesn't matter where you are, your location, your demography, your business purpose or objective. It's important to adopt change, foresee change, and if possible, lead the change itself. And when that happens, you won't fade off. Rather, you remain relevant in your business niche.
Thank you, Elias. Fantastic. KJ, I mean, just continuing from what Elias said and about the fact that any company can adapt. Any company can get onto the bandwagon and make that change. And for a company that has been resisting this for so long and finally want to get on and move with times, what will your advice be?
Well, I've been really lucky for the last 3 years. I've been exposed to so many industries. I belong to a meetup group called Silicon Beach Oz. You're talking about all the digital tech founders and startups. There are about 16,000 members in there, and I'm actually one of the committee members. And also my customers also is in touch with kind of like the digital age as well. So I come from the forensic sales background, and before that I came from a lifetime background. So I'm completely exposed to like so many industries, the SaaS and IT, and there is a pattern developing that I noticed, even the banks and all that, is that they're all kind of like, moving towards that digital transformation side of things. Not just about, having an app, having an app's website. We always think that it's just, having special app, like, that is digital age. No, the banks, it's a lot more to it. That digital means that like the way they work among each other inside the corporation. They're digitizing that kind of process. A lot of things are moving towards a server as opposed to a cloud hard drive. And, you got your Microsoft online and things like that. So the way they engage, like Slack and stuff like that. So So big, large corporation in Australia, which is what I'm exposed to, especially even the big banks, are actually focusing on the digital transformation within themselves as well as outside themselves. And so the trend is really positive in a lot of ways. Now, because of my exposure to this area, I learned about the word called agile. Like Sanjay talked about agile company, but I'm talking about the agile framework, right? It's a completely different thing, right? Preventing the waterfall, the traditional waterfall method is no longer working in this kind of era. There's a lot of digital people and creating apps and things like that. Software, banks have to have software, for their client. And to create those, the way of working needs to be completely different because of what we have struggled with for the last 2 years, right? So they have to change a lot of things. You don't even see your colleague physically anymore, in a lot of cases. So I've been exposed to the agile framework, and man, I'm also exposed to something called Kanban. I got customers in there, and I'm learning all these theories and platform through diffusion when I'm helping them to sell. So I'm very lucky that way. And I start to realize that, company needs to evolve, but they need to know how to evolve. You can't tell companies, you guys need to innovate, guys. Can you imagine? I did that once with my sales team back in the days. I said, all right, guys, let's have a meeting for 1 hour, and I want you guys to be innovative. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Innovation comes from when you're having a shower, or you're brushing a cat, or you're cooking your meal going, oh my God, there's something I just worked out. See, I think what is very important is to free your mind, especially all the startups and things like that, or people, not just startup, but big companies, and you are employee within that. And don't be so restricted with the rule and regulation and the policy, and this is the way it is done in this organization. We talked about earlier, there are a lot of companies that resist to change. Yeah, I get that. However, the only reason why they resist to change is because you personally as a staff didn't push it. You didn't push the boundary. I mean, you have every right to push it, yeah, but you risk your job. Yeah, but the thing is, if you want to do a change for the goodness of society or goodness for the company, why not take that risk? Because if you do take the risk and say, hey, there is a better way of doing this, shorter, faster, more, cheaper, right? In many ways, then put up your hand and help implement that whole project for your company. And I think we're too complacent sometimes, especially if you've been in the larger companies and you just sit there, you go in and out. It is just about paying the mortgage type feeling. That is why there's not a lot of change in organizations. It's not just about the bosses, the owners, or the founders of the company that say, oh, we don't want any change. It is the individual employees that actually needs to kind of like, if the boss is don't want to change, but you yourself need to change. Why does it have to stop you from changing your process? Look at your inbox. If you got 3,000 million inbox email sitting waiting for you, well, you got to start changing your attitude about how to be more efficient. We can do little things, especially in the pandemic era, in the digital era, that there's so many things you can do to improve your business, improve your career, improve your everything. It's only that putting the right mindset. This global summit is about mindset. So get into the program of adapting to the better way of doing things every day if you can, and don't be so complacent about the status quo. Warren Buffett said that if you don't change, you die. That's pretty much what he's trying to say, right? You got to change. You got to adapt. And so if you're waiting for you to get fired, well, you know what? That's why you're in trouble. And so that would be my advice for startups, my advice for employees, my advice to larger organizations, that we employees in a large organization have a completely different mindset into the future, because the digital age is going so fast. If you're not on top of it, you're going to be left behind. And that's the truth of it. That's reality. You don't even have a choice. So I spoke to my dad today. My dad goes, oh my God, this iPhone is really shitty. It's like he's 75 years old. And he was telling me, I'm so embarrassed asking my children over and over again how to use this same bloody app, right? Same bloody app, because he just couldn't remember it. And I said, Dad, don't worry about it. I'll show you every single time you ask. Every single time you ask 100 million times, I will show it to you. But that's the reality. If you don't change, you'll be left behind. And that's what happens to people like my dad's generation.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, KJ. I mean, I think most importantly, I feel that people, you don't just survive, you want to thrive, right? And you need to remain, as much as you said agile, you need to remain fluid as well, because things are changing so fluidly around us as well. Just you actually look at things, and you have this perspective on things, and you think that's the way it's going to go, and then before you know it, 3 months later it's something else, right? It's changing so quickly. So yeah, hence why I think everyone just needs to remain as fluid as possible. So we're almost out of time, and I would like to ask each one of you to kind of wrap up. If you have anything to say, I'll start with you, Priya. Just to throw in advices to the future of business.
The future of business is like how you can adopt as fast as you can. The innovation is the key to succeed, no matter which business you are. Technology is something you cannot avoid. Like even if the lifestyle business, what is technology for me is like using your mobile phone, using your new not just the hardware technology. There is so many softwares things, so there are so many other stuffs involved in your day-to-day work. Even the yoga teachers, they are using the new techniques, how they can improve. So there are so much to adopt, and the things are, as you said, things are moving so fast. The faster you will be, that's why people went into the agile, that's why people went into the scrum model, because they wanted to adapt away and getting away from the traditional model. The versatility will be turned into the fundamental component. So not only the tech startup, everybody has to actually adopt to the trend and actually think above and beyond. So proactively you can act on it, you before it even arrived it. Crisis like this is not gonna tell you have to be ready, right? Risk management is your key, and shifting your angle towards the inside is very, very much important. Yes, you want to give a best customer satisfaction, or you are thinking about the customer. You also have to shift your angle, and you have to look how satisfied your customer, your own people are, because your people are your army, right? So if they are not happy and they are not on board with you, you're not gonna thrive. So you have to create that onboarding process. You have to share your vision. You have to be creating much more open and friendly environment for them to grasp and adopt with you. Just don't left them behind as an employee mindset. You have to bring that entrepreneurial understanding, why your vision is like that, why you are thinking 100 years down the line, they're not stucking into the 3 to 5 years of plan. So those are the very important aspect. You have to start thinking. AI is already there, so you don't think that you're going to adopt in future. It's already there. So and if you are not technically as we discussed already, that if you are not online in technical aspect, then you are left behind. Because driverless car, everything, if you're driving here, they will say there is a restaurant here, there is a yoga center here, there is a shopping area here. So if you're not online, how these kind of a technology is gonna actually inform their own consumer? People are not gonna search anymore. It will be informed. So be ready for that kind of a future to adopt. That's my key. Think proactively and forward.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Priya. Alaya, what would you like to say? Your advice, Alaya.
All right. So for me, actually, okay, let me come from this angle. Irrespective of your location, all right, most persons define their current location as a hindrance for them to adopt change. And I think the reason why that is so is because they've gotten so used to their present environment or present circumstance to the extent that they deprive themselves the ability to thrive effectively, even when crisis actually avail itself to them. So when it comes to startup, what I can say to startup is that okay, become as much flexible as possible, but on the long run, become stable. Very important. Become flexible as possible. On the long run, become stable, because you won't want to vacillate here and there. If you do that over and over again, you will burn out of resources, burn out of ideas, and of course, your team are Okay, so that is like the first part. Now, when it comes to larger corporation, the adoption of faster processes is important, but don't just try to improve the process. Try to improve the people. Okay, because when you have the right people with the right mindset, with the right psychology, every other thing will fall into place where they need to be. Okay, and to individuals who are just out there who are sitting down and wondering, oh, okay, I don't have a business, I'm not working in XYZ place. The key stuff is you can start from where you are, right? And no matter how your idea turns out to be, as a matter of fact, I believe that creativity is born out of the conflict of ideas. So no matter how your ideas turns out to be, it is possible, and it is tangible, and it can become something usable as long as you don't kill that passion within you. Share it with people. Become visible with your ideas. All right, and get hands. And once you have other hands connected to what you do, you have a system being created. Try as much as possible to keep that system of value running, and you won't necessarily fade off the marketplace.
Thank you, Elia. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
that's all. You're
I'm just going to
welcome.
read what Sinfung said. He says, show your clients who are resistive to change some tangible success stories of other businesses to give them the confidence to adapt or incorporate changes. Again, like KJ said, it's all about you. You need to want to make that change, right? You can throw in as many stories as possible. You can show them everything. And if you don't want to change comes from within, right? If you don't want to change, then how are you going to get anywhere? Sanch, over to you, Sanch. What would you like to say, before we call it a day?
Hey, thanks for this platform to be able to just share my thoughts and opinions. I really appreciate it. I'll start off with just actually answering, because I think there's two people, Keiichi and Sinfung, in my perception, asked a similar question, right? Why should I stick out and be the one that instigates the change? There is obviously fear of being fired, fear of being let go. But here's the question though, the rate of change is so fast. If you do not even make yourself relevant, you will be left out as well. So you choose. Do you want to stay in your position and then be asked to leave because the industrious thing has changed, or or are you going to take that chance and show that you're relevant, show you have an insight? And I really love that story, Katie, that you just mentioned about your father, because it really occurred to me that when it comes to traditional businesses, even though we might have CEOs of larger, older corporations that use mobile phones and technology, I'm quite sure, just like your father, there might be some resistance or fear of technology. I know my dad is. My dad is the most brilliant, intelligent person you'll ever meet, but he is always getting stuck with his phone. He's always getting stuck with his computer. So maybe change has to come from middle management. Maybe change has to come from the young, telling a bit to the wise and working together, just like what the title of um, this summit is. So, I mean, essentially for me, my plotting words is three things. It's what I've repeated, what everyone said. I think businesses need to, either whether you're a startup or whether you're an old business, consider people first. Our customers are people. We work with people. People. The reason why we have business is because of people. So make people the first thing you think about first. Then you think about the process. Are the processes that I have in place conducive to the people and the environment that I have? And then and only then do you think, which app, which technology am I going to use in order to make those earlier two things of process and people more efficient and effective. So those are my parting words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. KJ, anything you'd like to add?
I'm gonna focus on sales because that's the only thing I'm good at. And I agree with everyone else because they've tackled all the company, the corporation, the culture, and the people. So I'm going to talk about sales. So in terms of evolution, I think the reason why I'm actually still in business is because this thing that people still like doing business with people, and that is something that we all have to remember. And the other thing is like what we need to start thinking about as businesses is to use the time when we actually do talk to our client to understand where the trend is going. Because like if you're trying to only push your product but not really listening to your client, then there is a potential that you missed out on the trend that that allows your company to eventually evolve. See, like sales reps are the one who is actually the arms and the legs of the company because they are the one who are actually normally engaging with the customer more than all the internal process. If a company is not giving the rope or not actually develop a culture within the organization that allows those feedback from the reps back into the company and accept it as what is happening, then of course your business is going to be left behind. So a culture needs to be there to appreciate that the changing trends from the client, and we have to teach our reps to do more listening than telling. And that is where we are able to receive all the information we need. And you know what? We build much better rapport if you improve your sales skill. At the end of the day, just improve that will give you so much more, not just about selling, so much more. Even like when you're trying to persuade your friends, your family, it is the same skill. And learn that skill at the end of the day to do well in your business, to do well in your relationship, to do well in and get whatever that you want by just understanding the persuasive skill that everyone needs nowadays. You want to get another job? Well, learn your sales skill to sell yourself, for God's sake. You know, so everything you evolve around the sales skill I'm talking about. I know I'm biased. I know I'm a sales coach and all that, but everything that we just touched on today involves us communicating with other people, whether it is externally and internally, right? It doesn't really matter. You have to persuade someone way or another to get your way, right? Am I right? So all that is part of the sales skill. Sales skill is a life skill. I'm gonna finish off with that.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. So, you know, what I've just learned is change, and people. You know, that's it. That's as simple as it is. You know, remember, today we've had so many insights. I mean, interesting nuggets. So, thank you so much, KJ, Sanj, Alaya, and Priya, taking time out from, the very late hour in Australia. I'm not too sure what time it is in Nigeria at the moment, but thank you, Elias. Thank you so much for coming in. It's been an amazing session. I'd like to thank Andrea for putting this together. You know, it's nice to see the young and the wise, all of us being bold together. Again, KK Cheese says, Alaya is on point, Shabas, and thereafter, KK says, true, people-centeredness will drive change effectively. Thank you so much for all your comments, and we hope we've answered all your comments. And thank you very much, and good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.